Hello, welcome back. My name is Charlie, and I just got back from a 2-ish week long vacation to the United Kingdom. I went with my family, my wife, my son, and my parents actually joined us for half of the trip. We did 1 week in London and then another week in not London. So we went to Tunbridge Wells for a couple days. That's like just, an hour-ish south of London by train. And then the New Forest area, which is like this big park, and it was very pretty. We did some cool things out that way. Initially, when we were planning this trip and when we were packing and getting ready to go, I was thinking that I was going to kind of bring my camera, and I thought that maybe when I got home, I would put together a sort of vlog style video for you, and I would, show you everything that we did on our trip and maybe tailor the trip a little bit to be a little more book related than your average trip. Go into every bookstore that we pass and buy a whole bunch of books and talk about them when I get back. Instead, I went in kind of the opposite direction. I unplugged from this for 2 weeks instead, and I just focused fully on having a good time on vacation with my family, and that was great. I have no regrets about that, but I am here. I'm back home, and I did want to put together a video where I at least told you a little bit about my trip, and especially the book-related things that I did do while I was over there. We had a great time. It was a really great trip. It was a long trip. 15 days is a long trip to take, and it's a different kind of trip than I'm used to because we were traveling with an 18-month-old, and so that's different than any trip that you've taken without an 18-month-old, I promise you. And it mostly the difference is that I'm tailoring my entire schedule around the baby. And by that I mean not just the times that we did things, like going around his nap, but also the things that we did were also pretty tailored to things that we thought a baby might be interested in as well. So we did some museums. The Natural History Museum was great. The Science Museum was really cool. We went to what's it called, Ashdown Forest or something like that, which is the forest that inspired the 100-Acre Wood from Winnie the Pooh, which was really cool. That was like definitely one of the highlights of the trip. And we went to like Peppa Pig World too in Paultons Park over in New Forest. I don't know anything about Peppa Pig. I've never watched Peppa Pig. They seem like a very annoying cartoon character, and everybody over there that I mentioned that we were going to Peppa Pig World to was like, oh, don't do that. You're making a mistake. Peppa Pig is horrible. And my son doesn't even know who Peppa Pig is because he doesn't watch TV yet. So maybe an odd choice for us to go there, but it was also really fun. Maybe because we don't know the character, it was fun to kind of take him on his first rides. Was really cool. And we also covered a lot of the classics. Like we saw the changing of the guard, and we had some Sunday roasts, and we had high tea and things like that. We also went to a bunch of farms and pet a lot of animals. We also saw a bunch of wild horses in that New Forest area. I don't think they're actually technically wild. I think they're technically they are owned by someone. Somebody is responsible for the horse's well-being, but they're out in the wild, and you can pull over your car and walk pretty much right up to them. We stayed back, a respectful distance, but you could. But it was all really cool, and my son honestly loved it. He had a great time on this trip, and his brain really doubled in size. I feel like he leveled up as a human being over the course of these 15 days that we were over there. But yes, this is a book focused YouTube channel, and I am a book focused individual. So we did do some book related things. We really only went to 2 bookshops while we were over there. The first one was in London, and it was a bookstore called Foyles, I think. This one struck me as kind of like I wouldn't be surprised if it's a chain. I didn't ever look it up to see if it is a chain of bookstores, but that's what it struck me as. It was pretty large, multiple floors of books and things like that. And we mainly went in there because it looked like they had a big children's section, and they did. It was really good. It was a really nice selection of books. It was a big area. There was places for kids to draw and things like that. And so he had a lot of fun in there, and we picked him up a couple books because he was obsessed with buses, the buses in London. He loved them. He just pointed at them and shouted "bus" every time they went by. So that was fun. So we got him a book It was called That's Not My Bus, which is about buses. And then we got him a book called Busy London, which has a bus on the cover. And then just like has a bunch of London-related things, like the Tower Bridge and the London Eye, and it's got these really cool components. I don't know if you could see that, but big like sliders and big moving parts, and he was really into that one too. That's pretty much what we got for my son. They were big hits, and we read them about 400 times on the trip. Now onto the big kid stuff. One of the highlights of the London portion of this trip is that I actually got to meet up in person with a bunch of my internet book friends, which was really cool. I got to meet up with Mair of Lady Mair Reads, Tim of Tim Burbage Reads, Sam Harrison of Sam Harrison, and Laura of Hardy's Books. And that was awesome. I was so looking forward to that. I was really nervous, but it was great. When we talk to each other almost every day on the internet, so it makes sense that it was easy to have a conversation with them in real life, but you never know, right? You never know. It was really cool, honestly. I wasn't entirely sure that it was going to happen because none of them live in London, so everybody took a trip to make this happen. So it was really nice that everybody was able to do that. I didn't fully expect it to go through, but it did, and I'm very, very glad that it did. Ross, the other half of Hardy's Books, was also supposed to join us for dinner, but he couldn't make it. He had a horrible migraine. He had to he was on his way, and he had to get off the train and go home. But it turned out to be fine because the next portion of my trip started by us going down to the location of Station Books. If you're not familiar with Ross and Laura of Hardy's Books, first of all, you should be. You should be familiar with them. You should go check out their channel. All of the channels that I've mentioned are terrific. But Ross and Laura specifically, aside from their YouTube channel, they are book collectors and booksellers online. They have hardysbooks.co.uk, and they sell books online, like rare and unusual books. And recently, Laura went ahead and just opened up a bookshop also. There's a lot more to it than just opening up a bookshop, obviously, but they did that. So the two of them are now running a bookshop on top of everything else that they do. They're very impressive individuals, if you ask me. I think it is so cool that they did that they're running a bookshop and that they're living out that dream. And I was so excited when we were planning this trip that we were going to make it a point to go down and visit the bookshop, because I've been dying to check it out. And obviously I live quite far away from that, but we did it, and I'm so happy that we did. If you are ever anywhere near this bookshop, I highly recommend checking it out. Not just because I like the owners and I think that they're great people, but it genuinely was one of the best indie bookshops that I've been in. I don't know if it's just the selection that I have around where I live, but they're not okay. Let me go back a step. I don't know how to gauge what's the best bookshop, right? But for me and my tastes, this is the best bookshop that I've been to. Something about my area, I guess, there's not a lot of bookstores that have fantasy sections that are actually filled with fantasy books that are good, or there's not enough fantasy books in their fantasy section. So whenever I go to an independent bookstore near me, it's a struggle. There's usually just one shelf at most, or one bookcase at most filled with fantasy books, and it's all the classics, or the staples and the things that I've already read, or that I don't have interest in reading, honestly. So it just doesn't work. But Ross and Laura know fantasy, and I know that I have very similar taste to them, and you can see their taste right on the wall. It's a decent sized section, but the size isn't really the thing that matters here. It's the curation of the section. It's very well curated. All the things that were in the fantasy section are things that I want to read or that I love. Obviously, this is in no way sponsored. They don't know that I'm doing this. I'm excited. I had a really good time meeting them, and their bookshop was genuinely great. Anyway, moving on. I got some stuff from them. I got this really cool tote bag, which says Station Books on it. And I got a few bookmarks because every book that I got came with a bookmark. So that was cool. And Laura gave me this mug, which was so nice. It says Station Books on the front, and on the back it says I support independent bookshops, which is really cool. And that's on the side where you're drinking from. So now you take a sip, and then you are reminded that you're a good person. But let's get to the good stuff. I got 3 books from their lovely little shop, and I only have 2 of them here with me because my wife is currently upstairs reading the third one. But I'm going to start with the ones that I have here in front of me. The first of which is called Once Was Willem. This book is gorgeous. I don't know, again, the camera's really far and I can't really see the viewfinder here, but I hope you can see this. It's gorgeous. It's shiny, gold lettering. The beautiful art is carried over onto the sprayed edges here. If you can't see this, I'll try to put up some B-roll of how beautiful this book is. But it's stunning. And it was actually signed by the author. It's a signed and numbered copy. So I got number 145 of 350. And yeah, there's the signature right there, which is pretty neat. It also has a gorgeous naked hardback. Again, I'm not sure if you're seeing this, but it's just stunning. I can't get over it. I haven't gotten over it and I won't get over it. So what's this about? This is a book written by M.R. Carey, who is the author of The Girl with All the Gifts. I've talked about The Girl with All the Gifts several times on this channel. Not in the best way. I haven't finished The Girl with All the Gifts. I started it years ago, but at the time I wasn't like a reader, and I just didn't finish it, and I don't know why. And I want to. I know that I liked what I was reading. It's like a almost Last of Us-esque story. It's like a zombie, but anyway. I don't know. I didn't finish it. It doesn't matter. That's the author of this book. And I do want to finish that book, but I think I'm going to get to this first, actually, now that I have this in my hand. This is about a character named Willem, and he has died, and he gets resurrected, right? So he once was Willem because he is now a zombie, right? That's already an interesting premise to me. I love a good zombie. And then it also has, like, these horror themes and, like, I think biblical themes, sort of, or, like, Christian mythology somewhat, but it's dark, and it's about, I think, Willem, this now zombie character, and him dealing with this like evil sorcerer that comes to town, and I think it's like sort of weirdly found family. Like Willem kind of teams up with, or Once Was Willem kind of teams up with like other non-human characters, and they have to take down this sorceress. That's kind of the bulk of what I know about this book, I think. But what I know outside of that is that Sam Harrison, who I've already mentioned, he's one of the people that I got to meet over in London, he loved it. I think this, he said, is one of his contenders for like top book of this year so far. And I know a couple other people who have said similar things. I've only heard really high praise for this book. So I'm stoked. I really can't wait. I think this is going to be read very soon by me, or at least I hope that it is. And then the next book that I got is actually, I'm maybe equally excited about this one. This was the book, as soon as we said we were going to visit this bookshop, my wife and I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to buy this book. I absolutely have to buy The Dance of Shadows by Ragba Payne. And that's because Ross Hardy of Hardy's Books, he loves this book. And I've watched his review of this book like 3 or 4 times for some reason, just because it's a really good review and the book sounds so cool. It's, again, just an absolutely gorgeous copy of this book. And again, really cool sprayed edges here, which again, I'm pretty sure you can't see from over there. And again, it is a signed and numbered copy. And again, you probably can't see that, but there is a signature on this page, I promise. And also it again has just an awesome naked hardback. Look at that. Can you see that? Can you see that? Probably not. It's really cool, I promise. This is like an African-inspired fantasy novel, and it's about, I believe, a character named Rumi. I think so, something like that. And they seem to be a musician, and they're trying to earn money in the arts, and they're trying to perform and save up money so that they can kind of get their family out of a bad situation. And I think essentially that their tribe is poor and disparaged, and other tribes don't care about them, and on top of that, they are living somewhere that's being colonized, which is not fun, and they're just trying to get free, and he's trying to earn enough money to help his family get out of their situation. And that is sort of where my knowledge of the story kind of comes to a close. I don't know exactly where it goes from there, but I think that's kind of the setup, and then bad things happen is kind of my understanding. I don't know fully what those bad things are, but I know that this is a world where they're dealing with spirits and gods, and they're like accessible to them. They are able to, if you have a good enough reason at least, and maybe you're powerful enough in some way, you're able to call upon a god and like talk to them and get advice and help from them. And so probably big things happen with that. I know, or at least I think that there's some, pretty dark tones in the book, and like some real struggles that the characters are going through, and it sounds like there's a lot of wisdom in these pages, and it sounds like the world and the culture that is built in this book is just really interesting, really well done. Ragba Payne, the author, has apparently also created a really cool, or at least interesting, magic system. It's like a shadow-based magic, which I love that sort of thing. And I'm interested. I urge you to go watch Ross's review of this book, because he speaks about it very passionately. It sounds really cool. And they also mentioned that Ragba Payne is a genuinely nice guy, and that's always good to know about your author. So those are the books that we got, like, mainly for me, and then we also got The Names, which also sounds really interesting. It was my wife wanted it, and she picked it out, and it looked good to me. But then when we got home, she started reading it, and it sounds really interesting. So far, she's really liking it, and I think if she continues to like it this much, I'm gonna have to read it at the end. It's essentially, my understanding of this one is, the way it opens up is you're kind of, you're thrown into this woman's life, right? You're the main character. I don't know her name, but she is about to have a child. Or no, she has a child. She already has given birth to a baby, and she has to go now to the registrar's office and give them their name. And she's sort of sent to do that by her abusive husband, and he wants her to go and name their son after him. But then when she gets to the registrar's office, and she is at the point of writing down the name, right? She's about to fully choose the name of their child. She then kind of splits into three realities. Or I don't know if she splits into three realities, but the story then splits into these three alternate realities. And in each of these different realities, she gives the son a different name, right? So one of them is like a name that her daughter chooses, one of them is a name that she chooses, and one of them is a name that their husband chose, like his name. And from there, it seems to kind of alternate back and forth between those sort of timelines. And you get to see how the choice of the name impacts her whole life, and I am assuming the baby's life as well. I had initially thought that this was kind of like a nonfiction, like a study on names sort of thing, and it sounded interesting to me. But then when she started reading it, I was like, oh, I was way off with what I thought. I don't know why I thought what I thought, but I was way off. So this sounds really cool. I don't know. I need to hear more about it, but I'm hesitant to ask more about it until she's done, because I don't want like anything spoiled, because that sounds, I don't know, that sounds very interesting. My wife walked me through like a couple of the things that have already happened in these first few chapters. When she's seeing the realities, the different names and the immediate aftermath of choosing that name, and it's already like very impactful and intense, and it's very interesting. I don't know. I'm intrigued. I think as she was explaining it to me, I was playing through my head my own thoughts of like where each storyline might go and the ramifications of each choice. And I just think there's a lot that you could do with that, like more than I would have initially thought until she started walking me through it. It was, yeah, I'm into it. I'm into it. So we'll see if it holds up all the way through and she likes it. Then I'll definitely be picking that up. And finally, the last book on this desk is another tiny one, another one for my son. But this one is also really cool. This is called Raven's Swim, and this is a very limited edition. This is a book that I believe Laura wrote the story and Ross did the art. And that's super cool. They wrote it for, I believe, Ross's niece, and it's adorable. And they gave me a copy to read to my son, and I have read it to him 500 or 600 times already, and he loves it. So that was another really cool grab on this trip. And that's kind of it. A short little book haul at the end of a short little recap of the last couple weeks of my life. I just mostly wanted to come on here and say hi and give you that little recap, and kind of give you the behind the scenes look into me, I guess. I don't know if this video is going to be interesting at all to anybody, but I'm having fun. If you've read any of the books that I talked about here today, or if any of them sound interesting to you, I would love to talk about them down in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts on them, and I can't wait to dive into all of them. I really don't know which one is going to win me over first. I think Once Was Willem is currently the front runner, but we'll see. And if you haven't already checked out any of the channels that I mentioned here in today's video, I would also appreciate it if you would do that too. They're all really great channels, and it's through watching their videos that I've gotten so close to these people. And so yeah, not even really that I would appreciate that you would do it. I recommend that you do it because they're great channels and they're great people. So yeah, check them out if you feel like it. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye.